Hello and welcome back to Game of Trades, your #1 channel for videos on the stock market and cryptocurrencies. This video is going to be focused on Bitcoin that has recently made a 38% move up from its low here. Just absolutely monstrous gains we've had over the past couple of weeks. And the asset has now broken out of this consolidation range that we were watching impulsively above this 45K resistance level. So we're going to be talking about what we should expect next. We're going to talk about the relationship between Bitcoin right now and the macro environment. I think that is really the theme for Bitcoin right now, what its relationship with the macro is going to be now, and how positive is it going to be for Bitcoin. Now, if you watched the last video that we posted on Bitcoin, you'll know we talked about this indicator here, the transfer volume and loss, that showed a massive amount of capitulation, a massive amount of people that were selling their Bitcoin at a loss throughout this period of consolidation. And in fact, throughout the last few months, we've just had a record amount of selling at a loss. When you tend to see that, it's towards bottoms on Bitcoin. It happened in 2021 here in summer, here in 2019. And we also looked at the crypto fear and greed index that was, I'm going to show you a little bit more clearly here, but this is the sentiment that was extremely low here as we were reaching that bottom. So it triggered a fear signal that we've only had 1, 2, 3, 4 times over the last 3 years. So huge buying opportunity this was, huge accumulation opportunity. But now after a 40% move up, does Bitcoin still have what it takes to continue moving higher? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. If you're interested in following this crazy asset with us, make sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And by the way, if you enjoy this episode, don't forget to click that like button as well. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first thing I want to show you guys, and this is something that we've been talking about with the members on the site. We talked about it a few times, and I believe I did even mention it once in a YouTube video, and that is the relationship between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq 100. And the indicator I'm going to put on here, this orange line here, this is the breadth. This is something we take a look at a lot when we look at the stock market, but it also has a very important relationship with Bitcoin. And I'm going to quickly show you what I mean here. So what this indicator basically shows you is the number of stocks, or the percentage of stocks within the index, within the Nasdaq 100, that are above their 200-day moving average. So it basically tells you how many stocks within the index are trending up or trending down. When it's very low, it means most stocks are trending down. They're below their 200-day moving average. When it's very high, most stocks are trending up, right? It's as simple as that. And so when you have a rally on the Nasdaq, if you've got a big move up in the breadth, that tells you there's a lot of stocks participating. So it's a broad rally. And why is this important for Bitcoin? Because when there is a broad rally on equities, there's a broad rally on tech, it means the macro environment is favorable to that happening. It means we're in a bullish, optimistic macro environment where investors are willing to put in money in the stock market and look to a brighter future. And I can show you how powerful this is with Bitcoin. Let me put vertical lines here every time you get a very oversold breadth reading on the Nasdaq, meaning all stocks are trending down. That's usually when you want to buy the dip on the Nasdaq. Let me put vertical lines every time that happens. I can include this one right here as well. I can include this dip as well. So you can see I've put 7 lines on this chart. So 6 other points that are similar to what happened here in 2022. Let me remove this indicator so that we can see it clearly. What type of signals does this give on Bitcoin? This is just monstrous data, right? This is absolutely something to look at every time it's big bottoms on Bitcoin. This is an asset that is undoubtedly very sensitive to the stock market and to the tech sector. Now, I haven't done a calculation on the average 6-month and 12-month gain that you have following that reading, but you can kind of get the picture. This was a 900% rally. This was a 300% rally. I'm not even gonna go over here. This is a 300% rally 1 year out. That's another 300% rally. And let's not even go to 2012 and 2011. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna get a 300% rally here, but what I am saying is that we are coming from an environment where there was a lot of pessimism, where everyone was looking towards tightening, low liquidity. And now we're coming into an environment where it's going to be the exact opposite. All that fear, all that pessimism on the market is going to slow down and maybe even turn into optimism. And I do have an example of this, of how the Federal Reserve impacts Bitcoin. This is just fascinating stuff. This is the Federal Reserve balance sheet. So when it's going up, they're doing QE, quantitative easing, which is notoriously known to prop up assets, speculative investments. And when it's going down, like in this period in 2018, that is when they're doing quantitative tightening. And that's what they were doing from December. It really began around the 20th of December 2017 and throughout the year in 2018. Now let's see where the previous bull market top on Bitcoin topped. And you guessed it, it was end of December 2017 when QT began. And when did Bitcoin bottom? Right here in this zone, in this accumulation zone, December 2018, right here. This is when the Federal Reserve came together and said, we're lowering our rate hike projections and we're probably going to stop doing quantitative tightening. So this is when they began to get dovish here. That's when Bitcoin bottomed. And guess what? A few months later, in March 2019, that's when they announced that they would stop their tightening cycle altogether. As soon as Bitcoin heard that, well, you guessed it, we had a massive run. Now, if you've been watching our stock market videos, you'll know that we have lots of reasons to believe that the Fed is not going to tighten nearly as much as what they're saying. And that a lot of this fear, a lot of this anxiety that we've had in the market throughout the past few months, I think investors are going to backtrack on that when they see that the Fed is not going to tighten. And I believe that's part of what Bitcoin has been sniffing out over the past couple of weeks. That's why it's been breaking out in anticipation of that next May meeting where the Fed is going to have to backtrack on a lot of what they said in March. Because guess what? The yield curve is at zero. They've missed their chance to tighten. And they don't want to tighten into a recession, and that's exactly what they're going to do if they don't backtrack now. Now, something else that's very interesting about this current rally, and we covered this in the recent Bitcoin article that we posted this week, is that we're not seeing any type of selling, right? This is the on-chain data that we post on the website regularly, and that shows us how much selling there is. And typically when you have a big spike in selling, that can mark local tops on Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin coming into circulation, and that's probably going to put some pressure on the price. And for example, right here in this recent run, right there off the bottom, you had a spike in selling that triggered a little bit of consolidation. What we're seeing right now is Bitcoin's price has rallied 30% off the low here, but we're not seeing selling just yet. If you're interested in having access to these articles where we take a look at what's going on underneath the surface on Bitcoin, we look at the futures market and what professional traders are doing. We take a look at the technical levels that are important to watch and where we think we're going to see big opportunities. And we give you guys our ratings on Bitcoin, whether that's short, intermediate, or longer term. We give you guys our convictions and the reasons laid out for that. We've been talking about this accumulation zone for quite some time, highlighting all the big bullish developments that we've had on Bitcoin and even some of the opportunities in the altcoin market. For example, the ratio between Ethereum and Bitcoin that was coming closer to support, building some divergence, and boom, you have a nice breakout in this recent run. So a big outperformance in Ethereum against Bitcoin. So, as we just covered at the beginning of the video, Bitcoin is extremely correlated to the Nasdaq 100 and to the S&P 500. So if we take a look at the charts of the Nasdaq, for example, we've had a 18% run off the bottom. This is just a massive rally here. Would I be surprised if we see a little bit of a counter trend correction here? Nothing goes up in a straight line. So we could pull back to some levels of support here before continuing this uptrend, and that would have the same type of impact on Bitcoin. Now we try to stay away from short-term price action, but we look for opportunities as they come. And the fact of the matter is, this was a buying opportunity. This is not so much a buying opportunity. So you have to wait, and that's our job. That's what we do. We wait and watch out for buying opportunities when we expect a broader macro trend to play out, and that's exactly what we're expecting right now. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Now, in the meantime, I wish you good luck on your trading, and see you next time.